we need selenium for glutathione peroxidase, and we need copper, zinc, and manganese for superoxide dismutase. These flavonoids protect the cell membranes from disruption, and they keep dopamine-producing brain cells alive. That's the most important thing. They restore energy in the brain, especially quercetin. Now, quercetin is a flavonoid that is the most eaten flavonoid in America. So it's one you're likely to get the most of if you eat lots of fruits and vegetables. They also inhibit inflammation. They're changing gene expression. So we make less of the inflammatory elements in our body. I won't go into their names right now. Again, if you want more information than I can give you today, my book's on drsteveblake.com. It's under $10 for the ebook, and I encourage you to dig further and dig into those references too. This study was looking at dopamine-producing cells. It was a cell study, and they were kept alive with extracts from berries. They used blueberries, grape seeds, hibiscus, blackcurrant, and mulberry. The extracts are rich in anthocyanins and proanthocyanidins, and these are very protective. The anthocyanins can actually travel through the blood-brain barrier, and they go up into your brain, and they lodge there and protect your brain from cell death, from oxidation and inflammation. So in a way, blueberries and strawberries, and if they have anthocyanins, are likely to be dark. So that would be dark grapes, like red grapes or black grapes, also blueberries and strawberries. The green grapes don't have much of these. In the study that I ran on Alzheimer's disease, we did use blueberries and strawberries as our source of anthocyanins, and we used other dietary changes as well and some nutrients, but the results were very good. The blueberry and grapeseed extract rescued dopamine-producing cells that were in danger of cell death. Now, this is a very important point because it's possible that many of your dopamine-producing cells are teetering on the edge of dying, but not dead. So if they can be rescued, then they can get healthy again and make dopamine, boosting your dopamine and helping your tremors and your movements. This is kind of interesting. The studies show that people who smoke cigarettes get less Parkinson's disease. We all know cigarettes are very damaging to the lungs and increase lung cancer and are very unhealthy in a lot of ways, increased heart disease risk and all that. So I looked for another way to get this nicotinic receptors stimulated besides smoking cigarettes. And I found this fascinating study. This is in the Annals of Neurology. Potatoes, tomatoes, and peppers reduce the risk of Parkinson's disease by 19%. But wait, peppers had the biggest protective effect, cutting risk in half. In those who never smoke, risk was reduced 87%. That's a huge reduction of risk. So it's possible that eating more bell peppers could protect your dopamine-producing cells. Now, the problem is that many of these peppers are heavily sprayed with things that may increase the death of your dopamine-producing cells. So what to do? Only buy them organically grown, grow them yourself, but make sure they're not sprayed with pesticides because that would kind of nullify the beneficial effect. But they can be a delicious addition and can reduce your problems. Now, here's a plant root called ashwagandha. It means strong like horse in Ayurvedic medicine. Its botanical name is Witheria somnifera. It increases dopamine production, interesting, and alleviated gait disorders, very interesting. Many people with Parkinson's disease tell me that when they're walking, they feel like their feet are sticking to the ground. They don't want to, that initial movement of their feet is difficult. A slow walking called bradykinesia and other movement disorders were alleviated with this. Now, the literature on ashwagandha has been studied quite a lot. In this study in the Journal of Aging Research, and also a study in molecules, they really reviewed it thoroughly, looked at the research on it, and the root of ashwagandha, as far as I can tell, I have not seen contraindications or drug interactions. You should do your research yourself and consult your doctor, of course. But alleviating gait disorder sounds nice. The other thing is it's neuroprotective, and this brings a smile to my face because if it's neuroprotective, it's keeping your brain cells alive, and not just the ones for movement, but also the ones for thinking and memory. It reduces the damaging products of fat oxidation. When our fat is oxidized, we can create malondialdehyde, and this oxidation product of fat can damage DNA through DNA adducts and increase the risk of cancer. So we want to avoid that, and ashwagandha seem to help with that. So that's kind of a side effect. But a real effect is it promotes the growth of axons and dendrites. Now, dendrites are the little things that stick out of neurons that the signals go into the cell, and axons are the little things that stick out of the cell that send messages away from the neuron cells in our brain. The axons in the substantia nigra are very long, and they go all the way down to the striatum. And so promoting the growth of these axons is really quite critical. So there's a couple of reasons that you may want to integrate ashwagandha into your tea making, perhaps, or it can be put in stews and soups too. I recommend you do your own research. Start by reading these studies, which are also quoted in my book, and think about if that's going to be good for you. Remember that the food changes are probably number one and the biggest effect, but this can help too. They did a study in Iran, and they've used licorice, a fair amount of licorice, 136 milligrams, and tremors were reduced by half in 6 months. Their unified Parkinson's disease rating scores and their motor scores improved 10%, and during the 6 months, the controls got 10% worse in their scores. So the thing is, licorice root powder is very sweet. And we just bought some organic licorice online, and it's not expensive. The fun part is that if you add it to a tea, it's very sweet. So instead of using sugar, you can use licorice to sweeten your tea, and you get the side effect is that tremors can be reduced by licorice. So that might, and sugar is not that great, put in your tea anyway. So see if you like the flavor of licorice. If you do, I actually have some tea my wife made right here. It's got licorice as a sweetener. Really quite good. Now here's one, Ginkgo biloba. The leaves of these plants contain certain components, and I only like to use the standardized extract of Ginkgo biloba and most other medical plants too, because they're standardized. So every single capsule is the same. And they limit the ones that are not so good for you, and they raise the ones, the terpene lactones, 24% of each capsule is terpene lactone. So you're getting the good stuff in every single capsule, and they standardize on other things too. Ginkgo helped to restore dopamine levels and tyrosine hydroxylase, so you can make more dopamine. In the substantia nigra pars compacta, exactly where the dopamine is made, and in the striatum, where movement is initiated. It's also neuroprotective, and it reduces the free radicals like superoxide radical and eats up the radicals, and it blocks fatty acid oxidation, which I just talked about, which can be damaging to cells. If the fatty acids are oxidized in the cell membrane, then that cell can rupture and die. One caveat, you should not use ginkgo biloba with blood thinners, because one of the ways it works is to help blood penetrate deeper into the brain. It's used widely for helping people think clearer and get better memory, to the point where it's used by students when they're taking exams. And this bottle shown on the screen is something I made fairly recently. It's a ginkgo standardized extract mixed with a ginseng standardized extract. And this I made for people with problems with memory and thinking, and also low energy, especially in the afternoon. And I was happy to see the lab reports are extremely good on this, that it really does have exactly those standardized extracts that we want in here. Now, just briefly, I want to talk about homocysteine. It's an undesirable blood chemical, and it can be reduced if you take folate and vitamin B12. Folate's available in green leafy vegetables and beans, any type of legumes. And vitamin B12 is available in supplements and fortified food. Uh, it looks like vitamin B12 might be wise to be supplemented on whatever diet you're in. Excess homocysteine increases the risk of heart attacks. On the left, you'll see I did write a book on heart attacks called No More Heart Attacks. It's also available on my website for under $10. On strokes, see, people with Parkinson's disease generally don't die of Parkinson's disease. They die of the same things all Americans die of, heart attacks and strokes. And I wrote a book called Stop Strokes Before They Start. A lot of information on food and strokes in there. And Alzheimer's disease and other memory problems can happen with Parkinson's disease patients. And my book, Nutrients for Memory, outlines the Hawaii Dementia Prevention Trial, which I designed and ran at the Hawaii Alzheimer's Disease Center. And that outlines all of the things. And you can take these steps yourself. You don't have to pay me thousands of dollars, just slightly under $10, and I'll send you the book. If you're really broke, I'll send it to you for free. No problem. This study, though, showed that if you do take the vitamin B12, on the left, you see the levels of homocysteine were all above the safe level, except for one guy. And then after taking the vitamin B12 supplementation, just 5 weeks later, they were all just about down to the safe level. So there's no doubt that vitamin B12 really does help with this. And I certainly take it every day in my multiple vitamins. Okay, now we're going to get to something real interesting that it's unlikely your doctor has told you. Even if your neurologist is a movement specialist, he may not have been reading about how excess dietary protein interferes with the production of dopamine in our bodies. Many neurologists know that excess dietary protein can interfere with levodopa-carbidopa therapy. And that's why they normally advise people not to take their drugs near a meal. It seems like protein persists quite a bit of time after a meal and can interfere with the drug therapy if eaten in excess at any time. So we'll look at how dopamine is made. I've gone over some of this before. You start on the top left with tyrosine, and then with that enzyme I asked you to remember, tyrosine hydroxylase, you make levodopa. Or you can take levodopa drug. Both of these are inhibited from getting into the brain by excess protein.